I mean, it's a mathematical explosion because year after year after year, you're not only receiving interest on the original money that you placed in there, but you're going to earn interest on the interest on the interest year after year after year.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. Again, my name is Rick Nuske and I'm your host today. I have Karen Ford with me. She is the Amazon best-selling book author of Money Matters, and she is going to be sharing with us today some insights into finance and how to avoid not being able to manage your debt. In fact, she says here that she provides keys to demolishing debt. How are you, Karen?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for asking.
Look, it's wonderful to have you on the show today. We actually had to reschedule a couple of times for one reason or another, but we finally got here.
Yes, sir, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. So tell us what's been happening, Karen.
Well, my goodness, I've been coaching some people one-on-one, getting their finances in order, helping them demolish debt, build. I've coached people one-on-one with very small debt from about $500, but the winner of the debt was somebody that had excess of $800,000 in debt, and so that was a little challenging, to say the least. They're working the principles, they're doing the keys, and so they're well on their way to demolishing that debt. Last time I spoke with them, they were already down $200,000 in debt, so that's very exciting, very exciting.
That's amazing to be able to have that sort of positive influence in people's lives, isn't it?
Oh my, yes, it absolutely it's elating to me. It's very exciting to me to watch people apply the principles. You know, when I coach people one-on-one, they're pretty much at their wits' end. They're very depressed, very down on themselves, and guilt-ridden, to be quite honest with you. And what I like to do is I like to give people hope, because I don't feel that there's any financial situation that is beyond hope. I haven't run into anybody yet that we could not work a plan or a budget for them to get out of debt and to start building wealth. And so I just love that. I love that part. Yes.
Money can be considered in a number of different ways, can't it? It can be seen as a positive influence on our lives, but also if it's not managed well, can also be the source of much grief.
Oh my, yes, it can. I've talked with many people that had great intentions. You know, maybe they decided that they wanted to go into business, but they didn't do their due diligence and look a budget, and then it just flopped for them. And I felt so horrible for them, but if people will, even sit down with a financial coach or read a book on it or something before they decide to make any kind of investment or get credit cards. I've recently coached a couple that had over 80 credit cards, and every one of those credit cards had a balance on them. And the sad thing about that, Rick, is that the husband had some credit cards in his name, unbeknownst to his wife, and the wife had credit cards in her name, unbeknownst to her husband. And have to interject here, when there's a marriage involved, money is a very important aspect of marriage, as you know. The number one cause of divorce is money. And that is just a huge issue. It's not communication, it's not the children, it's not anything else. It's money. Yeah. And to me, that's very disheartening. But it's very doable. If people learn the keys and the principles and apply them, it's very easy to deal with.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking with us about this, because, anybody can sit back and say, look, I want these things. It's that instant gratification society that we live in globally, isn't it?
Oh my, that's so true. I think there's an upcoming generation, more so now than maybe when I was younger, but you know, kids these days, they just want things right now,
Hmm.
and they live the lifestyle that their parents presently live, but they forget it took maybe 30 years for their parents to attain that lifestyle. And I think sometimes with money, there has to be some patience,
Yeah.
that goes along with dealing with money because more times than not, you're not going to create that wealth overnight. It's a process.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
really is. Mm-hmm.
Karen, I just have this thought coming into my mind. My wife and I made a decision together about, if we don't have the money in the bank to buy X, whatever that might be, we can't afford it. What are some of the foundational principles that others should live by, similar to that sort of approach?
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked that, Rick. Well, first and foremost, the book Money Matters by Karen Ford on Amazon is going
Hmm.
to give you the information. But let me throw out a few keys here. First and foremost, a budget is absolutely imperative. And I can almost hear nails scratching a chalkboard because the word budget has had such a negative connotation to it for people, but really simply put, and I think sometimes people have heard the word budget and it was a real negative for them because maybe it was used to beat them down saying we can't get it, it's not in the budget, or it was used to control. But simply put, a budget is you telling your money what you want it to do rather than wondering where it went. And that's simply put. If you want to go out to eat, once a week, you can put that in the budget, but that's the key is creating a budget. Look at the income, look at the bills that have to be paid, whether it's rent or your mortgage, your utilities, car payment, gas in the car, etc., food, obviously,
Hmm.
and then the excess. What are we going to do with the excess? Do we want to take this amount of money and invest it, or this amount of money and put it in savings, or do we want to start saving up? And I'm so glad that you made that point that you and your wife discussed. Look, if we don't have the money in the bank to buy it, then we can't. And that is an important key as well. Number one is the budget.
Hmm.
Number two is to plan ahead. In other words, if we go into a department store and we see a living room suit that we'd love to have, and we don't have the money in the bank to buy it,
Hmm.
we can wait. And what we can do is whatever the amount is for that living room suit or whatever item it is, start saving so much money each and every month and place that in a separate account marked living room suit. And then once you hit close to the price of that living room suit, you might see a living room suit for say $1,000, but if I've saved up $800, more times than not, I'm going to be able to buy that living room suit for $800 cash, because if they don't sell it to me, I'll go to another department store and buy that same living room suit for $800 because money talks.
Mm.
And to not, people will take a little bit less of an offer for that particular item if it's cash. And cash is so much better than buying it on credit or
Yeah.
payment, because it just makes it so much easier. We can do that with any item we see. We can do that for vacation planning, Christmas, etc. I
Yeah.
like that.
I like it.
Yes.
I like it too because it's funny. Again, coming back to my wife, she said to me, it's a great feeling to know that after you buy whatever it is you want to buy, that we have no debt, and it's an empowering thing. And I think this comes back to two things I want to talk about: is the mindset that we have, which didn't come naturally, I have to say, given that we were trained and marketed to by the banks and businesses for so long about gaining finance to get, that quick gratification. But also, this, a lot of people don't have much at the end of the day as excess, do they? And this is where the understanding the power of compound interest comes in.
Oh my, yes, that's so true. Compound interest, but compound interest, when you invest, Boy, that is a mathematical anomaly, to be
Isn't it?
honest with
Yes.
you. It really is. Because, when you're talking compound interest, you can put so much money in the bank. I've used this illustration before. If you put $1,000 in the bank and you don't touch it, in
Hmm.
40 years, you don't put anything else in there. You put $1,000 in the bank at 6% interest. In 40 years, you're going to have $10,000. But if you put that same $1,000 in the bank for 40 years at 12% interest, you're going to end up with $720,000. But if you put that same amount in there for 40 years, excuse me, $10,000, if you put that same amount of money in there for 40 years and you're at 18% interest, you're going to end up with $1.2 million. I mean, it's a mathematical explosion because year after year after year, you're not only receiving interest on the original money that you placed in there, but you're going to earn interest on the interest on the interest year after year after year, as long as you don't touch it. And that's such a great key that many people are not aware of.
Yeah, it's not something that it's funny because it's almost foundational at an early age, but we seem to forget these foundational steps to, I guess you call wealth creation.
Yes,
Do you
yes, that's it.
do you find that when people come to you, Karen, that they are in a pretty bad state in terms of their mindset, and if so, what do you do to help them?
Yes, Rick, I do. They're depressed, they're down, they
Mm.
feel guilt. Sometimes if it's a married couple, they'll play the blame game. They'll blame their mate. I mean, they're just beaten down emotionally and mentally. And what I try to do is I try to place a picture in their mind what they want. So I'll ask a few questions to see what their financial snapshot is, so to speak, to see where they are right now. And then I'll say, okay, where do you want to see yourself going? Where do you see yourself in 1 year? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Because I want them to speak out what they want to occur in their life. And they'll start saying the vacations they want to take. They want to be debt free. They want to live in the home of their dreams. And I have them write that down, to be quite frank with you, because I'll say, look, a vision, a vision without a goal is a dream.
Mm.
But if we have a vision and we place goals, then we can actually start taking steps towards that. So I'll have them write down what they want to see themselves doing. And then all of a sudden I see hope spark.
Yeah.
I see spark of hope. And then I'll say, this is doable. And I will repeat that over and over again. And I'll explain to them, these are the steps that we're going to start right now, where you are right now. And I'll just keep interjecting hope. And I'll meet with them a few times. And generally speaking, after the third or fourth time of operating and practicing those principles and keys of budgeting and demolishing debt, it just starts. It's almost like a domino effect, Rick.
Mm.
And after the third or fourth time, they're well on their way. They don't need me anymore. They might say, listen, we want to keep meeting with you just for accountability purposes to make sure that we stay on the right path. But boy, I tell you what, there's such success stories time and time again when people will operate those keys and principles and keep those goals and that vision written down before them so that they see, look, this is what we're moving towards. We have hope. So yeah, I love that part.
You must have a lot of great relationships that you build over time for, from that early depressed, I'm down sort of stage to, hey, look, I'm financially free, or at least on my way.
Yes.
I look at the financial coaching. Is this similar to a financial advisor? Is it the same role, or?
It's a little bit different. A financial advisor will look at your finances and they'll tell you what they want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
My role is a little bit different, where I'm coaching them. I'll see if they're going to pull the answer out themselves. I know the answer, what they need to do, but more times than not, I don't want to give them the answer. If they can speak the answer and as if they're coming up with the idea, I think we need to do this, more times than not, they're more apt to do it. If you go to a financial advisor and they tell you do this, do this, do this, well, you have the option whether you're going to do it or not. But if they will say, I think we need to do this, and I say, yeah, I think that's a great idea,
Yeah.
or I'll guide them a little bit. If they say the answer, then I know they're going to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Karen, my future business, the audience that we generally have is beginner entrepreneurs and small to medium business owners. Now, when it comes to creating a relationship with a financial coach, is that something that you should do before venturing into the business space, especially if you have a partner, a family, and all these sorts of things?
I would highly recommend to get with a financial coach, especially if you're going in, well, first of all, if you're going into business for yourself, see a coach, but especially if you are involving family members, if you're involving other partners in the business and it's not just you, that's imperative because relationships can get very strained, for words, if you have not already discussed a plan and what you should or should not do. I have seen people go into a business with family members or best or dear friends, and they didn't see a coach beforehand, and that makes for a very strained relationship. And many times, unfortunately, friendships end. You can't really end a family, you can't end a family relationship, so to speak.
Yeah, I understand.
But the lack of communication won't be there. I mean, there will not be communication like there once was, if I could say that.
That's some really sage advice because, at the end of the day, we're trying to help people not only start their own businesses, but actually survive and thrive and, actually achieve those mission objectives that they've set for themselves. And so if anybody's listening today, reach out to Karen. She'll certainly be able to help you in the financial coaching space. Karen, I'd love to ask you about the process of writing your book. How did that come about? Is that something that you've worked on a long time, or tell us a little bit about that?
Well, certainly. Well, I'm a master financial coach, and what's dear to my heart and my passion is seeing people get out of debt and build wealth. I mean, that is just something within me. And the first book, to be honest with you, I never wanted to write a book. I never really did. But I thought, well, the first book I wrote was a 31-day devotional. And I thought, okay, well, that will give a little bit of a foundation for people. But this second book, I really poured my heart into that. And that took me about 90 to 100 days to write. I came up with the chapter titles because I thought, okay, how can I do this step by step to give people some keys and principles? And once I had the chapter titles, I just started filling in and just started typing away. And so that took me about 90 to 100 days, and it's just jam-packed. It's not a 300-page book by any means, but anybody that was to read it would be able to follow the steps and the principles. Like I said, for people that maybe can't have or don't have a coach to go to, this is a definite go-to book that will absolutely help guide, although I would not use that instead of a coach, but in the interim, yes. You can learn a lot from a book.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much power in books. It seems to be, in some respects, a dying art form with the digital environment that we live in nowadays.
Sure. Yes, that's true.
Karen, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. If people want to work with you and get your help, where do they find you?
They can find me in a variety of ways, Rick. Certainly I'm on Facebook, and the Facebook is worldwide. So to KBF, KB as in Beth, F as in Ford, KBF, Money Managing. That's my business page on Facebook. My personal page on Facebook is Karen Ford. I also have Instagram, which is KBF Money Managing. And they could go to my website, which is karenford.org.
That's fantastic. Thank you for spending some time with us, sharing a few of the principles. And if anybody who's listening wants to access this book, just go to Amazon and look for the details for Karen's book on that website. Thanks again for coming on to the My Future Business Show.
Thank you so much, Rick. It was a privilege.
It's been fun having you on the call with us today. Now click on that big red subscribe button and make sure you leave us a comment, share us with your friends, and join the growing list of leading entrepreneurs who have enjoyed their time on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for someone to create professional, evergreen webinar videos that get your audience to take actions you want them to take, then for more details, be sure to visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.